it seem less forward, given her conservative attire. In the cafeteria? Nadia looked him in the eye. You don't say your evening prayers? She asked. Said conjured up his most endearing grin. Not always, sadly. Her expression did not change. So he persevered, clinging to his grin with the mounting desperation of a doomed rock climber. I think it's personal. Each of us has his own way, or her own way. Nobody's perfect. And in any case, she interrupted him. I don't pray, she said. She continued to gaze at him steadily. Then she said, maybe another time. He watched as she walked out to the student parking area, and there, instead of covering her head with a black cloth, as he expected, she donned a black motorcycle helmet that had been locked to a scuffed-up 100-ish cc trail bike, snapped down her visor, straddled her ride, and rode off, disappearing with a controlled rumble into the gathering dusk.
Mohsin Hamid, thank you very much indeed. And we have a caller on the phone now in North London with a question for you. He's Daniel Simons.
Hi, Mohsin.
Hello.
I'm Daniel Simons from North London. I love Exit West. Which were the two main characters?
The Prime Minister saying a line has now been crossed that we can never go back to again. Everything is now overshadowed by what they see as sleaze and untruthfulness. And so if many more MPs feel like Robert Halfon does, the Prime Minister will find it difficult to cobble together a majority. This is a Prime Minister who won a huge majority 3 years ago, and now we're seeing Conservative MPs deserting him in droves.
But it's fair to say that some of these people, like Robert Halfon, we don't know, could have been people who voted against him in that vote of no confidence a few weeks ago. His position may not have changed, he's just saying it publicly.
Of course, it was a secret ballot, and so you never really know. And those MPs who are thinking about trying to change the rules to allow another leadership challenge are fully aware of that. Some of them, I spoke to someone on the committee who said, look, we may not do it immediately because it would smack of changing the rules because we didn't like the last result. They may wait, for example, until later in the autumn when the committee that's looking at whether the Prime Minister misled Parliament about Partygate reports, because that might be a big moment. So yes, of course, you never know how many of them felt this secretly, but they're now saying it publicly and saying that the Prime Minister cannot carry on. So Robert Halfon is not resigning from anything, but several other people are, and I expect many more will come later.
And it's interesting, is it, that the people who are now putting their heads above the parapet and saying we're not backing the Prime Minister, in some senses, that's a relatively straightforward decision for them. The Prime Minister's done something, they don't like it, they can say it publicly. Why would those who are backing him very publicly, like the Dean Dorries, like Liz Truss, why would they be doing it if perhaps they also feel the same?
Well, look, you've got people in Cabinet, and it's been discussed many times that the Prime Minister prizes loyalty and rewards people who are loyal to him. And you've got people like Priti Patel, the Home Secretary, the Defence Secretary Ben Wallace. These people don't necessarily you don't necessarily have similar views about policy, but they are people who've been loyal to the Prime Minister for a long time. Ben Wallace ran his original leadership campaign in 2016. Priti Patel was on the Brexit campaign trail with Boris Johnson, very much supports his tough approach on immigration. People who are determined to stick with him. There are people who perhaps wouldn't be chosen for a different leader's cabinet, people like Jacob Rees-Mogg, who's been out and about defending the Prime Minister, and yet and he's got very loyal people in his cabinet, including Michael Gove, who of course ran for the leadership against Boris Johnson at one stage. He said he's staying put. So look, at the moment it looks as if we're not going to see others resigning from the cabinet, but I think the ominous sign about some of these more junior ministers going is that other junior ministers will look at them and think, oh, that's a person a bit like me, a middle-ranking, ambitious person, and maybe I should join the exodus. So I think when you see people who you don't normally hear from, people who tend to keep their heads down and be loyal, that's never really a very good sign.
Okay, tomorrow, thanks very much for now. Well, tomorrow's going to be keeping across what is happening as the minutes tick by until Prime Minister's questions. And Sajid Javid's resignation came as a shock to most, although it is the second time he has quit a cabinet job. And we did hear from tomorrow that he had at least let the Prime Minister know. We caught him on camera a little earlier this morning.
Is it all over for the Prime Minister, Mr. Javid?
Good morning, you all for coming.
Are you planning a leadership bid, Mr. Javid?
Good to see you. Good morning.
What's your next move, Mr. Javid? Are we witnessing the collapse of the government, Mr. Javid?
Well, earlier Sky News spoke to some people in Bromsgrove to get their reaction to their MP, Sajid Javid's resignation.
I had had some hope in him potentially taking over from Boris, really. So, but I admire him for making a step, along with Rishi Sunak, to start the ball rolling, hopefully, to get Boris out of the post. That's how I feel.
Good on him.
What do you think about Boris Johnson?
I've never been a fan, and it's too many mistakes, too many lies, usual. Time for a change. They did the right thing, the guys did.
He keeps apologising, but it's just a word, isn't it? That's what I think.
The Prime Minister this lunchtime at midday. Boris Johnson will take to the dispatch for Prime Minister's questions in what is expected to be a very lively event in Parliament. And then later in the day, Boris Johnson will appear before the Liaison Committee as he fights to stay in his job. He's due to start answering questions at 3 p.m. So stay with us for full live coverage and analysis afterwards as well. Well, let's talk to someone who's worked closely with the Prime Minister to get their thoughts on the events of the last couple of days. Victoria Borwick was the Deputy Mayor of London under Boris Johnson and a former Conservative MP for Kensington, and she joins us now. Victoria, thanks very much for joining us. Has Boris Johnson broken the Conservative Party?
No, I hope not. I mean, I hope that, we're going to see a period of calm. I appreciate it doesn't look like that this morning, listening to all the interviews, but I think, we've had the terrible pandemic. We've got the threat of world famine and problems with food. I mean, there's a lot of things coming down potentially to be in more battles to fight. So this is not a time for the Conservative Party to be battling with each other. This is the time when we need loyalty. We need to get on with the agenda that the people in this country elected these politicians to do. I mean, we stood on a manifesto, and now it's time to let this government get on and deliver that. And I think that, this is the time when an MP should be saying, no, this is a time about working together, working with the Prime Minister. We're only going to be successful as a team. And as a country, we spent a lot of money during the helping people through the furlough. And now we need to gradually let business recover and get back to driving forward our economy. And we've talked about levelling up, we've talked about more policemen, we've talked about hospitals and schools. There's lots of things that us in the country, I'm no longer in politics, I work at a food bank, and actually we want the government to get on with governing, and we want to stop all these distractions.
But the problem is the distractions are not coming from external forces. They're not coming from the periphery. The distractions are coming from the Prime Minister, who appears to have a very, very loose relationship with the truth. And that is why two of his most senior ministers resigned yesterday. They say that they can't be governed by somebody who doesn't have integrity. Can the rest of the country?
Well, I don't believe, I'm very pro-Boris. I think he does have integrity, which is why he's apologised both personally and publicly to everybody, about what happened. I mean, this is what it's all about. He's getting on with governing the country. He's just come back from visiting Ukraine, where obviously we're facing a really serious humanitarian crisis, let alone the potential for a shortage of food, which is really important, particularly for those countries that rely on Ukraine. And now is the time for us to get back in Britain and to have a period of calm, and for all of us to get on with, building back after the terrible pandemic.
But isn't the fact that his senior ministers don't feel that they can trust him, they don't feel that they can trust his word, that is crucial to all of this, isn't it? You can't fight a war, you can't fight a troubled economy if you don't trust the person who is leading you.
Well, I don't know whether they've all got their own political ambitions, and that's why they're fighting for them and not supporting the government at the moment. The government works well when it works as a team, and I think now is the time. They've had a vote, they've had their 1922 vote. Boris won that, as he won the country a few years back, as you evidenced. And now is the time for getting on and delivering on that. And I think the people in this country want the government to get on and govern.
OK. Victoria Borwick, former Deputy Mayor of London under Boris Johnson, thank you very much. Let's come back to Tamara here in Downing Street. More breaking news. This is from Lee Anderson on Twitter. Tell us more.
Yes, this is another MP who is withdrawing his support publicly from the Prime Minister. Lee Anderson is MP for Ashfield, and he was one of the Prime Minister's vocal supporters at the beginning of June during the leadership contest. He said, I'll be backing Boris. He talked about this being an attempt by Remainers to try and oust him. He is a classic example of a red wall seat which had been held by Labour for many decades. He won it under Boris Johnson, was very much in favour of tough on immigration, levelling up, and now he has written this post on Facebook saying, with a heavy heart, I have remained loyal to the Prime Minister since being elected in 2019. My position has changed over the past few days since the incident which led to the Deputy Chief Whip losing the party whip. And the Prime Minister being aware of that and then not saying that he had. He said, I cannot look myself in the mirror and accept this. It is my belief our Prime Minister has got the big decisions right. He talks about some of the difficult issues there, but he says he wants to be accountable to his constituents. He said, I will do all I can to make sure our party wins the next election, and the thought of a Labour government terrifies me. So he says, please keep the faith. So he thinks the Conservative Party would be better off under new leadership. And we've talked a lot about how Boris Johnson has realigned the party and perhaps alienated some of his MPs in the process, that he's perhaps by going for policies and statements which have backed up the new MPs in the North and the Midlands, he's perhaps alienated some of those in seats facing the Lib Dems in the South. This is a Red Wall MP saying, I liked everything the Prime Minister stood for in 2019, but it's this sleaze, it's this these issues overshadowing everything they're doing, which has done for his support for Boris Johnson. So it's coming from everywhere. It's no one faction. It's not as if, for example, Rishi Sunak and his supporters are coordinating this. It's now coming from all directions.
And it's a sense that, as Lee Anderson said, that people are supporting his policies but have held their nose about various personal issues, and they just can't do that any longer.
Indeed, the personal issues just keep on coming, and it's quite amazing in a way that this issue of a man called Chris Pincher, who most people hadn't heard of a few days ago, he was the Deputy Chief Whip, a behind-the-scenes role, he was never on TV or in public, but he was someone well known in the party, and it was, again, as we saw months ago with Owen Paterson and as we've seen since, it's this issue of MPs feeling that the Prime Minister defends those close to him, his allies, at the expense of the fortunes of the Conservative Party, at the expense sometimes of being truthful with the public, and they don't like the way that many see that he drags others into it. Many MPs have had to answer difficult questions from their constituents about Partygate. Many of them have had to say, look, I didn't like it, but let's try and stick with Boris Johnson in order to try and, as they see it, get the job done. But now they feel that everything the government's doing, for example, in the last few weeks, the government have announced a lot of support for people to cope with the cost of living, and many MPs feel that's barely got any airtime because all that's in people's minds is sleaze and whether the Prime Minister is telling the truth and why they appointed this person or protected this person. And they now feel that the government's whole agenda, going into a very difficult period for people's finances, is really not cutting through.
Tamara, thanks very much. Well, you are watching Sky News today. Coming up, we're going to bring you continuing coverage of the situation, all the latest on the Prime Minister's battle to stay here in Downing Street.
I'm David Blevins and I'm Sky's senior Ireland correspondent. Politically, the two sides are as far apart as ever, and it's over that question of who has sovereignty in Northern Ireland, the very issue that's been the source of tension here for generations. I've spent 25 years reporting the journey from conflict to peace.
The political parties of Northern Ireland have reached agreement.
We already know what the government gets out of this deal. What exactly does the DUP get out of it? Well, £1.5 billion. If there's anyone who might know how to fix Northern Ireland's devolved government, it's the American architect.
Changes in circumstance require changes in approach.
If we both contract COVID-19 and end up in hospital, religion's nothing.
If there's a hard border, I think it'll cripple the country.
Very busy morning in politics. We're getting breaking news all the time about various people withdrawing their support for Boris Johnson. Our political correspondent Tamara Cohen is here with me in Downing Street. Chris Skidmore is the latest person to say something publicly. What's he saying?
So this is the third MP in the space of about, the last 10 minutes, Jane, who's not resigning from a ministerial post, but is someone who is just putting on record in a letter that they no longer support the Prime Minister. So we had Robert Halfon, he's a senior MP who's served in government. We had Lee Anderson, a Red Wall MP, and now we've got Chris Skidmore. He's also a former minister. He says that he's tweeted a letter saying he no longer has confidence in the Prime Minister. What's interesting is he is very strong on this issue of Chris Pincher and why it was so important. He said recent events have revealed the Prime Minister was informed about these allegations of sexual misconduct, and he says in responding to these events the Prime Minister was not truthful to the media, to his own advisers and to number 10 officials, and this is an extremely grave situation that is tantamount, he says, to an effective cover-up of sexual abuse which would never be tolerated in a normal functioning workplace. And he says the fact this has only come to light after the no confidence vote MPs held means that things are different now, and he's calling on the 1922 committee, which is the Committee of Conservative MPs, to urgently reconsider the rules to allow another vote. This is an MP saying we didn't get to the threshold before, but now with more information coming to light we probably should have another go.
And the 1922 committee, to remind viewers, to change a leader, because he leads the Conservative Party as well as the country, it is the 1922 committee of backbench MPs who have to vote to remove him, and because they voted a month ago and because they voted to keep him, he is safe for 12 months.
But they're thinking of changing it, and they're having a meeting. The rules of this committee are not written down anywhere, it's all a bit opaque, but essentially they're having a meeting on Wednesday night, tonight, and they are now electing a new executive, which is the 18 people who kind of run it, and that new executive who are going to be in place tonight may well include some of the Prime Minister's fiercest critics, people like Steve Baker and Andrew Bridgen, who've made clear they are running in order to get rid of the Prime Minister. That if they change the rules, and it would need a straight majority, that process could all start getting in motion pretty quickly. I mean, it's been put to me that it may actually take until the autumn to really actually get going and turn into a leadership challenge, but it is possible that they do it before MPs go off for their summer holidays on the 22nd of this month. So things could all move quite quickly, but you've now got MPs urging them to do something, saying we want another vote now.
So if it doesn't happen by the end of today, it could happen in the next 2 weeks.
Well, it may be only next week that they actually get to have a vote, because there's a whole procedure around it. But of course, that can all be changed. So they're having their meeting tonight. We'll see if the Prime Minister's critics get on the committee, but things could all start moving quite quickly.
Tamara, thanks very much for now.
All ladies, you are invited to our premier 13th Annual Women's Conference, Lady to Lady Global Conference 2022. Theme, Joy. Date, Saturday, 30th July. Doors open at 11 a.m. Venue, Fairview's Concert Halls, the Phoenix Theater, Croydon, CR91DG3, United Kingdom. Register on www.ladytoladyglobal.org. Music Minister, CLC Healing Voices. Simeon. Queenie. Ada Ahi.
Congratulations, I have seen the glory of God.
Conference speakers, Reverend Betty King, Pastor Marjorie, Pastor Sandra.
I did come to Lady, and from that day onwards, my life has never been the same.
See you there.
Welcome to Gabby Dave Global. We are a UK-based online e-commerce store, the first of its kind with license to trade in African products. Some of the products are clothing brands and all beauty accessories, hair and beauty brands, natural aphrodisiacs, processed and dried unprocessed food. Our mission at Gabby Dave is to connect African and Caribbean businesses to customers globally. At Gabby Dave, we ensure our sellers get the best deal for their products. We are not just here to help you reach a wider audience. We are also a distribution center to support business growth by fulfilling orders to your customers from our warehouse, making sure customers receive their products on time. We are inviting all Black-owned businesses to trade on our platform because we strongly believe Africans have a unique brand the customer would appreciate globally. So get in touch today and let us make your product and business go far. Here are some of the benefits of using Gabby Dave Global. User-friendly platform, track your shipment, online support, transparent process, multiple SKUs, multiple products, a platform that encourages manufacturers as well as traders. Our marketing and PR interventions amplifies yours. Organized products and categories for easy access and navigation. Access to global community, especially within UK and Europe. Welcome
Today
to
from
Gabby
7
Dave
p.m.
Global.
to 8:30 p.m.
We are
live on the
UK-based
Property Hour
online
show
e-commerce
on Starr Radio UK, where we talk to mortgage brokers, property developers, estate agents, landlord, tenant, property consultants on how to invest or get into the property business and make money. You can't afford to miss this. The Property Hour show is your best source into the property industry.
Hi everyone, it's your girl BB Clement, the author of How to Go From Employee to Entrepreneur and the host of your weekly business show, BB Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Starr Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Hi guys, this is your friend Uruj from SendWave. SendWave is a money transfer app that is used by people all over the world to send money to their loved ones in Africa. With SendWave, you can send money to Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. And the best part is, SendWave is absolutely commission-free. Our exchange rates are excellent. You can see for yourself by checking them out on our website. So how do you use SendWave? SendWave is an app that you can download onto your phone from the App Store or Google Play Store. The app is free to download. After downloading it, just open the app and enter your name, email, and phone number. That's it. You're good to go. Make sure you use the promo code SR. S for Star, R for Radio. This promo code will give you £5 free credit to send to Africa on your first transaction. Your money will be delivered to your recipient within seconds. Feel free to call me on 0749 7377 647 at any time. I'll be happy to tell you all about SendWave and help you in any way I can. Remember to use the promo code SR for £5 free credit. Medasse.
Broadcasting worldwide online 24/7. The best radio show.
All around the world. In your car,
At work,
at home,
on your smartphone.
Hi there, this is CJ Buckman, your life coach. And whenever I'm in London, I listen to Starr Radio UK right here. But guess what? You can listen to wherever you are.
in your car,
At work,
at home.
on your smartphone.
Are you ready to turn it up?
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Your heart is aching. Smile even though it's breaking. When there are clouds in the sky, you get by. If you smile through your fear and sorrow, smile and maybe tomorrow you find that life is still worthwhile if you just smile. Hey, this is Archie, and you are listening to Starr Radio UK show.
Smartphone.
Yes, there is nothing that God cannot do, and on that behalf, I say massive good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good dawn to you, wherever you might be on planet Earth. And welcome to Wednesday edition of the morning show. Today is the 6th of July, the year 2022. For the time now, 10:39 from the House of London. Of course, the day after Boris Johnson had two resignations from top cabinet ministers or secretaries, and he seemed to be quivering in his boots, but somewhere somehow he manages to survive for another 24 hours, while there are others who are also resigning and putting letters through of their lack of confidence in the Prime Minister. Well, if there's a place where you want to know all this, plus what is happening on my apologies, across the world, wherever you might be, especially those of you on the African continent, then this is the place to be. I remain yours sincerely, the one and only.
This is the morning show with Archie.
Okay.
This is the morning show with Archie.
Okay, so from now till 12 o'clock, when I take you to the House of Parliament for the Prime Minister's question time, that today you don't want to miss at all. We're going to be looking at the quote for the day, the weather forecast, the travel update from Nigeria, global trotting, and taking you to the Houses of Parliament as well. It's going to be a man-blowing program in this short period of time that we have. But do me a massive favor, share the broadcast with your friends and loved ones and invite them to like our pages. But let me say morning to my crew this morning. Mr. Olayomi, Mr. Frank Davis working behind the scenes, and the one and only Mr. Francis Guy. My able producer seeing to it that everything is ticking along very, very nicely. Something being played in background by Denzel Prempe. So there is nothing that God can't do. So some way, somehow, keep on keeping on. Boris is keeping on. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? All right then. Let me say good morning to all our listeners in the Americas, those of you in Asia, those of you in Europe, those of you on the African continent, those of you in Australia as well. All protocol observed. Once again, welcome on board. If you got yourself sitting, yeah, that's very comfortable, but brace yourself. If you got yourself standing, hold on to something. You know, at times it gets bumpy on this ride. However, you are short of one thing. With Archie in the helm, everything is going to be good. But remember one thing for sure. Get yourself a hot or cold drink, whichever is appropriate, and make sure you are cooling down for the whole ride, or heating up, whichever is appropriate. But let me say a special good morning to Fatai Ganiu Kehinde. Good morning to you, Fatai. I hope you are doing very well. You were the first to come on or join us. I salute you. Okay, let's crack on. 10:43 the time. The quote for today says, the difference between where you are today and where you aspire to be tomorrow lies in knowledge and skills. So how are you equipping yourself? It's all coming away from Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Let's move on straight to the weather front. How is the weather in London? I'm enjoying its music playing in the background. I know God is able. Alright then, so the weather front. This afternoon there will be a mixture of variable cloud and spells of sunshine. It will stay dry throughout. Now tonight will become largely clear at first before cloud builds in from the north during the early hours, along with a chance of the odd spot of light rain. A warm night expected tonight as well. Now when it comes to the temperature is going to be 25 degrees, the lower is going to be 16 degrees. Pollen level is going to be high, UV level is going to be moderate, and pollution is going to be low. Sunset 21:19 and sunrise for tomorrow morning 04:51 hours. And that brings us to the end of the weather forecast for you today. Let's take a quick break and I take you to the travels this morning. Don't you worry, I'll let you enjoy the rest of that song from Denzel Prempe. There is nothing that God can do in Ghana language, one of the dialects spoken in Ghana. All right then, and English, of course. That's why you were hearing there is nothing. There is nothing. It's not. But let's take a quick break and let me bring you the travel updates.
Tune in to On Point here on Starr Radio UK with Empress Regina every Monday at 5 p.m. GMT. Looking forward to your company.
Check it out. Keep your eyes on the road.
This is Starr Radio UK.
Okay, so keep your eyes on the roads, so keep you navigated. I promise I'll born the Starr Radio UK travel update that comes to every weekday from 10:40. It's not 10:46. And what is happening on your travels? Well, on the underground this morning, shortly, let me tell you, good service throughout London, Trambling, good service there, DLR, good service there. Apart from the London Overground, that has got part suspension between Highbury and Islington and West Croydon, Clapham Junction and Crystal Palace. New Cross due to a faulty train at Canada Water. And tickets are being accepted on London buses, London Underground, Southern, Southeastern, Thameslink, good service on all other London Overground routes. But keep your eyes on the roads, Moving on to the major roads in London, straight on. Now A24, A4, A41, Central London Red routes and South Circular A205 have all got closures. A20 has got serious delays. That aside, all the others, good service. You got it. Now let's move on to the river bus, and I can tell you shortly, apart from the Woolwich Ferry that's got special service, all the others have got good service. Now on the final segment of the travel update, that's the National Rail. There are a few incidents here and there, but I'm going to make sure I bring it to you
as quick as I can as we are pressed with time this morning. But stay tuned. Now, I'm going to West Coast, cross country, special first Trans-Pennine Express, got Great Western Railway, Northern Rail, and ScotRail have all got special service. Transport for Wales has also got special service. Now, when it comes to East Midlands Railway and Gatwick Express, Southern and Thameslink, they've got minor delays. That aside, all the others have got good service. So if you can avoid those, avoid those. If you are stuck in there, continue to listen to West Coast. As and when there are any changes, I promise you one thing for sure, that you know, I'll bring it to the fore. Thank you very much. Enjoy your commute for today, but keep those eyes on the roads.
Getting onto the property ladder has never been easy until now. Join us this and every Thursday from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. live on the Property Hour Show on Starr Radio UK, where we talk to mortgage brokers, property developers, estate agents, landlord, tenant, property consultants on how to invest or get into the property business and make money. You can't afford to miss this. The Property Hour Show is your best source into the property industry.
Hi everyone, it's your girl BB Clement, the author of How to Go from Employee to Entrepreneur and the host of your weekly business show, BB Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Starr Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Welcome back to the program. It is Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London, bringing the time down to 10:49. Yes, let's go global trotting. Let's see what is happening across the globe. We'll come to the UK, but let me bring you some excerpts of what we're going to be looking at when it comes to updates from Nigeria. Yes, 2 injured as terrorists attack President Buhari's convoy in Katsina, and that is a serious one. Some terrorists on Tuesday opened fire on President Muhammadu Buhari's advanced convoy deployed ahead of his trip to Douara, Katsina State for Salah celebrations. So what happened there? Okay, we'll be looking more into that. And some more stories. Terrorists attack many inmates escaped from Kuje prison in Abuja. Others including disgraced Super Cop Abakaire taken out of ruined facility. Well, so who are they looking for? Well, attacks here and there. Well, terrorists attacked Buhari's advance team to kill 2 policemen, as I've been saying earlier on. And other stories, OPEC Secretary General Bakindo dies after meeting Buhari. The Secretary General of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, Mohammed Bakinde, is dead. Bakinde died late Tuesday. Well, a lot more going to be coming from there. Why? Did Buhari have polonium in his palm when he shook hands with him? What happened to him? Was he ill? Was it a heart attack? What exactly is it? Who is back in there as well? We'll be telling you more about that once we have Mr. Olayomi Koiki on. But for now, let's move on. Let's have a look at some of the other stories making the rounds across the globe, especially here in the UK. Alright then. Okay, so here in the UK and other parts of the world, of course, the government of Ghana has begun talks with the IMF today amid economic crisis. Now, it goes on further to say, officials of the International Monetary Fund will commence negotiation with the government today on a possible program to support Ghana's homegrown economic policies. The IMF team, led by the mission chief for Ghana, Carlo Stravlovich, will have in-person meeting with the Finance Ministry, the Economic Management, and the Presidency from July 6 to July 13. Now, government signaled its intention to seek support from the fund last week. We'll bring you more on that front. Is it mismanagement of the economy? What exactly is happening there? It is Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Now, still looking at some other stories making the rounds in Ghana. Asesewa SHS student dies in fatal crash while returning from a night club. I'll be looking into that story. How secured are our roads as well? IMF bailout, free SHS, others won't be affected. That's what government is saying. But how true is that? Government justification for IMF bailout contradictory, untenable, Setekwe, former Minister for Finance and Economic Planning, is said. We'll be bringing you more on that front as well. So moving on swiftly. Yes, Abiy, Sudan's Burnham hold talks in Nairobi after border clash. Yeah, I did talk about that yesterday. Yes. And Zimbabwe Central Bank to introduce gold coin amid inflation crisis. Okay, so is it a good result that they are using for the gold coin, and how much can one buy one for? Now, French forces make Niger new home after being expelled by Mali. How is that going to help Niger to fight off terrorists or terrorism in that particular part of the world? We'll be looking at all that in the next few moments. Sierra Leone, FA investigating embarrassing 95 goals to nil and 91 goals to one score lines. I mean, if you want to do something, I mean, there's a one you want to lie with a bit of a way of escape, so that when they're coming, but 91 to 1, 95 to 1. Why? Were the people sleeping? How many? The 90 minutes, every minute, they were scoring goals. Or even more than that, less than a minute, they were scoring goals. Well, we'll be looking into those stories in the next few moments. It's all coming your way from Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Maybe one club knew how to play better than the others, and that's what caused that, isn't it? Well, if it's not, we will be seeing more of that in a moment. But it's all coming your way from Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. In other parts of the world, as I've said, we will come to London, don't you worry. Suspect charged with murder over 4th July shooting. The 21-year-old is accused of firing 70 bullets onto a crowd, killing 7 and wounding dozens. Now, parents of 2-year-old among shooting victims. A market hit as Russia shells Ukraine frontline city. 2 people died in Russian strikes and Ukraine eastern city of Sloviansk. Local officials have said. And heavy rains bring life in Mumbai to a standstill. Millions are battling flooding and overflowing sewers as monsoon rain lash India's financial capital. And a Russian woman has been rescued from a Kiev bomb site. Russian-born Katerina Volkova was injured in an airstrike on her apartment that killed her Ukrainian husband. Well, they wanted to eliminate the husband, not her. So maybe that's what is happening. It's just by way of a joke. It's not. That's not what I want to say. All right, then. But it's all coming your way from Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. And coming home here to the UK, we're going to be looking at what Boris Johnson Okay, my apologies. There was a freeze. Okay. Now, Johnson fights on, but hit by new resignation is some of the headlines making the round this morning. Yeah, if you take it to the Houses of Parliament this afternoon, you will see exactly what is going to be happening. Well. He's never faced a barrage of resignation and anti-Boris like that before. How would that fare for him? Well, he's appointed a new Chancellor of the Exchequer and a new Health Secretary. So, he is still plodding on, isn't he? Well, my brother Felix all the way in Aberdeen, massive good morning to you. Now, Boris Johnson is battling to stay in office amid further resignations from his government in protest at his leadership. Now, new Chancellor Nadhim Zahawi has urged unity after his predecessor, the Health Secretary, and several junior ministers walked out. But the Prime Minister has been hit by 3 3 further resignations, taking the total to 13 in the past day. It comes as he prepares for Prime Minister's question time later and a grilling by senior MPs. Mr. Johnson's premiership has been plunged into crisis following the dramatic resignation of Chancellor Rishi Sunak and Health Secretary Sajid Javid. Why is it that it was the agent who led the resignation? What would he tell them? But of course, he appointed Nadim Zahawi, makes it a bit, okay, I still trust them. Yeah. So we'll see more about that. We'll read into it. I'll tell you what exactly is happening. But then, this and a lot more going to be coming your way. So stay tuned. Mr. Olayomi will be joining us at exactly 11 o'clock. And we'll be going into all the stories making their rounds. Nigerian soldiers begin search for divisional police officer abducted by terrorists in Kaduna. Even the divisional police officer has been abducted. Talk less on ordinary citizens. What would you do for yourself? How do you even protect yourself? Alright then, this and a lot more I'm going to be looking at. Stay tuned. Don't you go away. Starr Radio UK. Enjoy the rest of the song.
Amen. Hallelujah. Amen. Hallelujah. There is nothing my God can't do. There is nothing my God can't do. Amen. Amen. Hallelujah. Amen. Hallelujah. Amen.
This is Starr Radio UK. You are listening to Starr Radio Morning. Starr Radio. Radio for the people, by the people. Enlighten your day with Starr Radio. This is Starr Radio UK.
In your car, at work, at home,
on your smartphone.
the best radio show. In your car,
At work,
at home,
on your smartphone.
all around the world.
This is Starr Radio UK. Archie on Starr Radio. Nobody.
We praise you now. There's nothing that my God can't do.
Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. I'm gonna time now to 3 minutes past the top of the hour. The Wednesday edition of the morning show with your one and only Archie. We're going to be joined by Mr. Olayomi in the next few moments, where he's going to be bringing you updates from Nigeria with some serious stories, news or making the rounds this morning. Some further stories that have come through from Nigeria, where we're going to be looking at this morning, pertains to a cursory investigation of the Nigerian economy reveals divergent fortunes for the finance sector led by banks and the real sector led by manufacturing, with a decline in manufacturing now at 9% of gross domestic product from a height of 20% in the early 1980s. Now, pundits will expect banks' fortunes to decline with the belief that the real sector manufacturing et al. Sustains banks, at least for developing economies such as Logic has been turned on its head. Now, and then some other story. Nigerian soldiers begin search for divisional police officer abducted by terrorists in Kaduna. Well, it's all going on like no man's business. But having the president's convoy, advanced convoy, being attacked by terrorists. Where? In the president's own backyard, Katsina, where the president hails from, is quite a worrying one. But whatever it is, we're going to be looking into all those stories. So wherever you are, don't you go away. It is Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. I've now got with me Mr. Olayomi Koiki. And let me say, Yomi, good morning to you.
Well, it is a very good morning to you back in the studio. Good morning to all our listeners and our viewers from around the globe. And good morning to you, Mr. Archie. Good morning to all our presenters. And I say, welcome to Starr Radio UK. It is your finest African and Caribbean radio station in London. It is exactly 5 minutes past. And I can tell you, as usual, it is very calm outside as I speak this morning.
Well, it seems to be calm outside, but there's turmoil going on in the UK at the moment. Now, what was your reaction to the resignation of Chancellor Rishi Sunak and Sajid Javid, the health secretaries? What was your reaction to that when the news broke?
Well, remember that Sajid was the first person that tendered his resignation, and in just under 30 minutes or thereabout, I could also get the breaking news that the Chancellor was also tendering the resignation. I know that there's been uncertainty with the Conservative Party, and the concern now is is the party going to hold on together? Would there be a leadership change is the question that a lot of people are talking about. Remember that when Boris Johnson was in Kigali in Rwanda, the question was whether there will be a lot of activities that would happen. He had to run back to Downing Street yesterday, but the question this morning to the British is, what impact does it make when a chancellor resigns? And what lesson can we learn when we talk about the democracy here in the UK, and as against the one in Nigeria, where we expect a lot of resignation should have occurred, but yet this does not happen in African countries. But it seems Boris Johnson is going through a lot of pressure, like Raskimono will say, under pressure, just as Nigeria this morning is going through a lot of turbulence, like somebody inside the aircraft.
Well, listeners, it is Starr Radio UK. Mr. Olayomi in our North London studios. I'm Archie, and because it's a Wednesday edition, and we're going to be taking it to the House of Parliament, so we're going to crack on with it. But what is the story about the president's convoy being attacked? The advanced convoy being attacked by terrorists. Now, you give us the background, and how do they know that it is terrorists? Is it what exactly has gone on?
Well, you do know that any part of the globe, when presidents are moving, they would have to have what they call advanced team. Joe Biden have it, Boris Johnson have it. People that will go ahead of the president just to make things, as secure for him. But it wasn't going very well for the convoy that was already in Katsina State, in Katsina State, and had to encounter not unknown gunmen not the IPOB, but the same terrorists that we've been talking about for the how many years, when we discussed the issues of insecurity. We were told that 2 people were injured as terrorists. Again, these are terrorists that attacked the President Buhari's convoy in Katsina. Salah is coming, and Buhari tends to love to spend, that time, in Katsina, in Daura, precisely in his hometown. The attacker opened fire on the convoy from an ambush position. Some terrorists on yesterday, opened fire on President Muhammadu Buhari's advanced convoy deployed ahead of his trip to Daura, Katsina State. A statement was issued by the Senior Special Assistant to the President of Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu. Gallant presidential guards repel attack on advanced team ahead of the president's visit. This was obtained yesterday. But the question then is, who is going to be the next victim? The next victim, I'll be explaining that, because there was another prison jailbreak that occurred again in Abuja yesterday. From the information that we are getting, more than 1,000 inmates have nowhere to be found this morning.
More than 1,000 inmates cannot be found this morning. We know Abakaire was also there as well, but we're talking about that. But let's finish with the president's convoy's attack now. So now, have they said what military enforcement to see to address the issue? Because definitely the president will be going to Katsina, he'll be going there. Definitely, something, it's his routine. There's something that he does. So have they, the military high command, have they said that they've sent maybe dispatch a team there, or what has been the response from them?
Well, the president will not be traveling on the road, so that means the chances of an ambush will be very, very slim. But what we do know is he will definitely be landing with his helicopter very close to his hometown. But let's take you back a little bit for those that might probably remember the last time the president was also in his hometown, and just about some few kilometers away there was a kidnapping that was taking place by some students that were also kidnapped. But the question you ask is whether there will be a kind of another advanced team. Yes, I do know they probably would have to put an extra security ahead as well. But the question is, if you take me off for just about 30 seconds, then I'll come back to you.
Okay. Well, listeners, Mr. Olayomi Koiki, working hard to bring you everything that you need to know. It is Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Bringing the time now to 10 minutes past 11. It is the Wednesday edition of the morning show. We have Yomi back, and let's go back to him.
Yes, well, when we look at the advanced thing that you talked about, the question is, was there an intelligent gathering ahead of those advanced things that the terrorists knew about, that even somebody within the same intelligent group was not aware of? Because when an advanced team is traveling, definitely they are fully equipped, and that means they will repel any attack, because again, it's an advanced team. But the question is, who gave the intelligence that the ambush took place? Ambush does occur, and when ambush occurs, that means there's another intelligent gathering. Remember last week Wednesday, more than 30 innocent Nigerian military were massacred by the same terrorists in an ambush attack at the Shiroro mining in Niger State. The question is Nigeria a collapsing country? Just yesterday, we had the information minister Lai Mohammed here in London saying everything is fine. We've even been able to give trade to 1,600 repentant Boko Haram. But as we speak right now, as the government is giving repentant Boko Haram a new trade, another 1,000 have literally left the prison, and maybe they might be getting back into the society where nobody knows where they'll be heading to.
Well, the question is, has anybody or any of the groups laid claim to the attack that took place? Do we have Boko Haram? Do we have ISWAP? Do we have any of them laying claim to the attack?
Well, not yet, to my understanding, because the attack only happened yesterday. So, but definitely, it was a terrorist attack. We do have the ISWAP, we have the ISIS, we have the Boko Haram, and we also have the unknown gunman that is working for the government as intelligence we do. But the question then is, they are all the same. Looking at what the late Dr. Malafi Obadia said, you should not mix them up. Bandit, Boko Haram, ISWAP are working for the same agenda: Islamize Nigeria, overthrow the government if possible, and likewise grab the land, as intelligent have told us. Yesterday we played, Professor Kali Linsa on this show when he was giving us, is Nigeria a collapsing country? It seems that now that Nigeria is collapsing after Kuje prison at about 9 p.m. local time was also attacked, and this was one of the the closest that we can hear when it comes to someone. Remember, prisons are, there's always residential homes, just as we have it here in UK, but this was what the sound was coming out yesterday.
But if you can hear the sound now, Kuje prison is under attack, serious attack. You can hear the sound of bullets. This is the sound of the bullet. Serious attack. For how many minutes have they been shooting? God help Nigeria. Jesus.
Play it one more time.
But if you can hear the sound now, Kuje prison is under attack, serious attack. You can hear the sound of bullets. This is the sound of the bullet. Serious attack. For how many minutes have they been shooting? God help Nigeria. Jesus.
Well, the guy was actually calling Jesus, so I'm not sure whether Jesus will come down. But let's hear what the governor Autumn had to say prior to this, and I'll come back to you in the studio.
And rescue these people. Tell me what is happening. It is a shame. Tell me, Igbo, they went after him in the southwest.
I'm going to play that back again.
As he being kept by these bandits. Where are the security? Where is the president? Where is the security to go out and rescue these people? Tell me what is happening. It is a shame. Tell me, Igbo, they went after him in the southwest and were able to stop him. At least we're not hearing about Igbo again. Why can't they stop these Fulani men who are terrorizing this country and made it impossible? They come to Benue and kill, just in my local government, within the space of 40 people have been killed. More than 40 people. In another local government, over 20 people were killed. And then you want me to keep quiet? They want to intimidate us. I will never be intimidated. At least let me talk. If at the end nothing happens, and some of you are keeping quiet, keep quiet to your shame. But I want to say that the rest of Nigerians, you people are joking. I raised alarm in 2016.
Keep quiet. We are not keeping quiet here on Star Radio UK, and we are not calling Jesus, but we are calling on the government to review and do the needful so that we can protect innocent lives. I'll come back again to you in the studio.
Yes, listeners, it's quite a serious situation that is happening in Nigeria at the moment, where you have people talking about it that way. But there is this conspiracy theory where we are looking at the fact that the 2023 election will not happen because the government will then say maybe there's going to be coup d'etat, or maybe government, the military have to take over and say that because of insecurity. Do you think we are getting to that place? Do you think that is what seems to be happening now?
Well, let's first go on our time clock on Star Radio UK and say how many more days before, if an election will hold, based on the question you asked. Looking at the time clock, which we have set up, on our website, it says 219 days, 13 hours, 43 minutes, and the seconds keep dropping. Will there be an election? Looking at the the INEC, the political party, there's a lot of preparation for that. As we know, people are getting their PVC has been told, so that they can vote out, the current government, or voting a new one, as even Peter Obi was saying, this morning. And this is what Peter Obi actually had to say before I respond to your question. Peter Obi was literally saying, that Nigeria is under comatose, and that means, he will be the only one that can rescue Nigeria. According to Peter Obi, Peter Obi said Nigeria is in coma and it needs me as the savior. I don't know how he's going to do that on a fraudulent 1999 military decree constitution, but what you've asked is, will there be an election in 2023? Looking at the instability that is happening, looking at the firepower of the terrorists, looking at the way they are moving from point A to B without any repel back from the federal government, it's now showing just exactly what the late Dr. Malafia is saying, that 2022 is something that we must continue to monitor. It's something that we must continue to talk about, because Malafia says this is the year after they attack the rural area, they're going to come out into the urban city. The urban city is where Kuje prison is, and that's exactly where it took place at about 9 p.m. We're not talking about in about middle of the night, about 12 midnight. This happened at 9 p.m. local time in Abuja. The question then is, will there be an election in 2023, or will there be a destability by the agenda of the government and those in power and the cabal not to give power back to the Southwest, maybe for those that want Tinubu to become the president? Or Peter Obi, as the youth are campaigning without being paid a dime? The question is, will there be a Nigeria in 2023?
Will there be a Nigeria in 2023? We'll be here. We'll be bringing you all that you need to know. It is Starr Radio UK. Mr. Olayomi Koiki in our North London studios. I'm Archie here in the South studios, and we are looking at updates from Nigeria. But let's go to the Kuje prison issue that happened. Now, for the sake of those of us who have not been to that particular area, so we don't know how big is it, a maximum security prison, or is it some small prison? Well, so give a bit of a description if you can, and then tell us more about what took place.
Well, Kuje prison, as we know, is based in Abuja, and is where high-profile criminal. So the way I can explain it to those of us that are living in the United Kingdom is looking at Belmarsh. So if you look at Belmarsh, you would understand, the caliber of people kept in Belmarsh. We are talking about hardened terrorists, not criminals. Terrorists that have created havoc, terrorists that are still going into under interrogation. Some of them have been there for years, and some of them are new. Probably maybe they're still working in terms of their recruit. In a statement which has now come out that attack actually took place, the Nigerian Correlation Service today confirmed the attack on the medium security custodial center in Kuje area of Abuja by the terrorists. In a statement by the spokesman Umar Abubakar, the service statement that it was yet to identify those behind the attack. The statement also did not disclose if there were any casualties or the jailbreak as a result. But the intelligence that we've got again this morning that is coming out, more than 1,000 inmates, including senior Boko Haram and terrorist suspects, have now escaped from Kuje prison. Only 60 of them have been found back.
Now I learned Abakari, that's where Abakari is being kept, and he has been is he rescued, or he has been secured somewhere? Can you give us a bit on that?
We wouldn't know this morning, just as one of the hardened terrorists was also escaped from Abolongo Correlation Service in Ibadan in Oyo State. The governor has not come out to tell us where he is. He has not been presented back to the to the court for the video to capture him, whether he's still within the the Oyo State, or maybe he has escaped. As we speak right now, nobody knows where Abba Kyari is. Maybe he has actually escaped, or he's decided to stay behind, trying to prove his innocence against the allegation against him.
Well, if he stays behind, then I would say that maybe he's innocent. But if he's fled, then well, justice. All right, then. It is Starr Radio UK. Now let's look at another story talking about a threat from a terrorist group saying that, well, the Abuja Kaduna train, the terrorists who attacked that train are saying that you're given 24 hours to slaughter victims. What is all that about? Are they demanding some ransom to be paid and has not been paid by government, and that's why they are going on that path?
Well, remember more than a month ago, precisely on the March 28th, there was a terrorist attack on the Kaduna Abuja train network. Multiple numbers of people were killed, multiple numbers of people were also kidnapped. But the information this morning is, if we do not get the demand, which is again the ransom that we want, then we would have no other option than to kill those that we have actually taken in their with them. So the question again goes back to what the government is doing in terms of negotiation, what the government is doing in terms of to rescue these individual people. But what I can say is those individuals are now praying that they do not get killed, as one of them was killed last week.
Well, listeners, it is Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Bringing the time now to 11:12 2022. And it is the Wednesday edition of the morning show, the 6th of July, 2022. You know that we work from home at times, and therefore we have our little ones who from time to time get in to give us a bit of support there. All right then. Now let's come to one other story, then I'll leave you to look at the others. Now, OPEC Secretary General visits Buhari. After that, is he a Nigerian in the first place?
Well, this morning as the news was filtering out, that yes, he is a Nigerian. Mohammed Sanusi Bakindo was a Nigerian politician from 1st of August 2016 until his death yesterday. May he so rest in peace. He was born on the 20th of April 1959 in Yola, Nigeria, and he died yesterday, 5th of July 2022. He studied at Ahmadu Bello University and also southeastern Nigeria. But the news, it was the OPEC Secretary General, as we know that Nigeria is the 6th largest crude oil, but we don't produce anything, but we do have good amount of crude oil where we send to other countries to help us reproduce it. OPEC Secretary General Mohammed Bakindo have died. Bakindo was in its final weeks of 6-year tenure as the group's head. Oil veteran had returned to Nigeria ahead of a post-OPEC career, according to what we know. OPEC Secretary General Mohammed Bakindo, an oil industry veteran who steered the group through the creation of OPEC alliance, has died in his native Nigeria, the group says. Bakindo is 63 years old, was in his final week, like we said, after 6 years tenure as a top diplomat at the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, where he headed his Vienna-based secretary. He had returned to Abuja in preparation for the post. The news of his death was announced by Melik Kayiri. We lost our esteemed Dr. Mohammed Sanusi Bakindo. He died at about 11 p.m. yesterday. So it was a very terrible day for Nigeria yesterday, looking at the presidential, advanced convoy attack, looking at the Kuje prison, and about other criminality that is happening that do not get into the news headline. Like we say, may so rest in perfect peace. Star Radio UK, I'll come back to you in the studio.
Yes, listeners, may he so rest in perfect peace. Did the family say...
We'll try and get this picture up in just about a few minutes as the engineer are working on that.
Yeah. Did the family say what might have been the cause of his death? Did he have any underlying health issue that might have taken his life?
Well, not to our knowledge, all we do know is, his last meeting or his last engagement, was with the president, before he died. What could have led to his death is still, a question that a lot of Nigerians and a lot of probably the international community would also love to know. But what we do know is, most times, when we're in our 60s, our 50s, we might have some different kind of, what we can call, underlying ailments that probably will not be disclosed, to the members of the public. But as of today, what we can say is Bakindo has gone to where we will probably have to only remember some of what he has done and some of his what he did, as we do know, and that is right there, from the background where we're just gonna bring that a little bit closer from the engineer that are working, and that is right there. May he so rest in peace. As the announcement of his death came yesterday.
Oh, may he so rest in perfect peace, as we've said. But we'll leave Yomi to bring you the rest of the story that's making the rounds, and then bring us what is happening on social media platform as well. So over to you, Yomi.
Well, I'm going to try and do it as quickly as possible because today is a Wednesday edition and we have to go to the Prime Minister where it's going to be very hot down there. Logistics firm declared profit growth of 87%. Also, controversies surround Abba Kyari's whereabouts after the attack on Kuje prison. We'll probably find out a little bit more, when we come back tomorrow. Nigerian banks underdeveloping the nation. That is coming from the headline. Let's look at that because quite a lot of Nigerians do complain about the banking sector. The cursory investigation of the Nigerian economy reveals the diverging fortunes for the financing sector led by the banks and the real sector led by the manufacturing. With a decline in manufacturing, we're not actually manufacturing anything. Now at 9% of the gross domestic product, from the height of 20% in the early 80s. In the 80s, we have the Okimbi skid, we have, the Oduduwa Tola tires. We have, all kind of production that was happening in Nigeria from the north to the southeast to the southwest, but everything has finally plundered. And then fortunes to decline with the belief that the real sector, the manufacturing, the sustain the banks, at least for developing economies. Such logic has been turned on its head. In regions of the country, while manufacturing has disappeared, banking branches have increased. You wonder where the money is coming if nobody's producing anything. Meanwhile, the Central Bank of Nigeria has now assumed the role of a retail bank by directly funding all types of sector, from farming to power generation. Here in UK, if I needed a loan, I will walk to any of the high street bank. If I have the right business plan, if I have the right credit facility or credit score, I will be able to obtain a loan. But that is the reverse in Nigeria, because the manufacturing sector has literally collapsed, while the banking sector has literally become more popular. So that means more Nigerians are being deducted from their little penny going into their account. And sometimes when people have overdrawn the account, the moment money goes in, the bank takes their own first before giving you the balance. This fund has been set aside from profit of banks to encourage them to finance the real sector. So the question again is, Nigerian banks under developing the nation is the headline. I'm going to go straight to the social media because of our time constraint this morning. And when we come back maybe later on Niger Voices, we will have a lot to discuss. As you can imagine, Peter Obi keeps pushing, as he's still trending this morning on number 1. Hashtag Peter Obi for President 2023. Hashtag Peter Obi number 1. Arise TV is number 2. And likewise, Kuje Prison has literally dropped down. As at yesterday, it was trending on number 1, but Kuje Prison is now on number 4. Let's look at the reaction of Nigeria this morning on the Kuje, prison break. According to IPOP family at Eruga 08, breaking news: all the terrorist prisoners in Kuje freed. This Nigeria for you. Get ready, Nigerians. So the question is, if these terrorists have been released, would they be creating more havoc? We have to wait and see. Neferati says, while we condemn in strong terms the disturbingly attack in Kuje prison and the attack on our dear President Buhari's convoy by the Boko Haram, we urge the President and his aide to be law-abiding and go about their normal business. We urge them not to take laws into their hands. You can see that that's a bit of a funny one there. Let's take a look at what Sonto Okonkwo is saying. Fulani terrorists attacked Buhari's convoy in Katsina, also invaded Kuje prison. No military or police checkpoint to stop them as usual. None of them will be arrested. Meanwhile, the military is busy moving armor tanks and ammunition to the southeast to kill the Igbo people. Let's take Mr. Adebayo. I work in Kuje prison for more than 6 years. I'm mostly on night shift where danger is on the high risk. I have witnessed so many attacks, but you see this one, this boy came prepared for us. Imagine an attack that lasted for 2 hours. Welcome to Nigeria. And like we say, may Nigeria never happen to us.
Well, may Nigeria never happen to you wherever you are. But with this situation that has happened, the president's the attack on his advanced convoy. My question: How has Nigerians? Looking at picking what is on the ground. You read a couple of them. How do they feel? Do they feel that secure? Are people going about their duties, not giving a hoot about whatever? Or is it because, well, if we don't go, we're going to suffer, we're going to be hungry, I'm going to die, so let's just do it? Is that what is happening? What do you think?
Most Nigerians feed on a daily, income. So that means, an average Nigerian that do not go out on the street would have to suffer for the whole day. It's not like here in UK where at least you have been paid a week ahead and then you still have a bit of change in your pocket. And that means that whatever this condition, whatever the situation, no matter the weather, no matter the news, it doesn't matter how bad the news is in Nigeria. Nigerians just continue as if life is nothing. Our massacre, Nigerians did not even react as you would have expected them. 4 months down the line, the student will probably say the military will kill us, so they would rather stay away. But the question is, who then will rescue Nigerians out of these comatose? But Peter Obi say Nigeria is in coma. I don't know what kind of engine is going to use to revive it, looking at the structure that is already in place. But he believes, just as the other presidential aspirant, that they can revive Nigeria back. But the self-determination groups are saying, we've now had enough. At think the best thing now is let's break away, become a peaceful nation around ourselves. I was looking at a country yesterday while I was doing my late night presentation, and I looked at a country called Eswatini. Eswatini is just about 1.1 million.
Yeah, around,
it's
in South Africa.
In South Africa.
Yeah.
Yes, and then you could see that they have a better life that they are living. I also looked at another country, Bhutan. I've never heard about it until yesterday. Bhutan GDP is 2.4 billion US dollars 2 years ago. Their population is just under 1,771,000. Bhutan is a Buddhist kingdom on the Himalayas eastern edge. It's known for its monastery, forests, and dramatic landscape that the Igbo, the Yoruba, the Hausas, we all have all these, but living together has become a danger as what was created by the British in 1914. Is Nigeria going to survive 2023? Star Radio UK will be here to monitor all that. But when we look at countries that are smaller in size and doing very well, the question is, looking at the index that we were looking at yesterday, Ghana is much better to live as of today compared to living in Nigeria. Yemen is number 1 on that particular list. Nigeria is number 12. And most other African countries are just below. A lot of Nigerians that are living in Libya say, I would rather die in Libya even though they don't have a government. When we look at the fragile state, Libya is number 17. Like I said, Nigeria stands at number 2. Other countries like UK are much stable at 153, 54. America, when you talk about 172, these are countries that are very peaceful. When I look at Benin Republic, you would think that it will also be unstable, but Benin is very, very stable. The question is, fragile state, Nigeria stand at number 12. When you look at the ICP, the corrupt index in Nigeria, Nigeria stand at 154 as against 180 countries that have been put together. And that is the reason why the corruption of an allegation or someone that took 80 billion as the accountant general will continue to let the international community look at all Nigerians and say, you will probably be a victim as well, should we give you the opportunity. But that is not meant to be if we are our own indigenous people. But the question is, Peter Obi say, I will revive Nigeria out of this coma.
Now let me ask you one quick question before we go. It's important because I know our listeners, you are enjoying it. Yes, at times if we come on and we have to just discuss one thing that will benefit our listeners, we will do it because we are here for our listeners. Now a quick one. Now, should it happen that we have a Yoruba nation, there's the break, are there going to be borders, and how are you going to flash out all these terrorists, let me put it that way, who are causing all this mayhem? How are they going to work on that?
Well, it's going to definitely take some time. Just as other countries around the world have been able to tighten their borders. At some point, Nigerians were getting a stamp of visa right from UK border entry. But this time around, you would have to send your details ahead before a visa will be approved. You cannot just go to America today without a kind of verification and a vetting. Yes, there will be people that would have to do a lot of work when it comes to the internal security to make sure that the first thing is defend the borders, and that way they will stop the influx of these terrorists that are filtering through the country, and then we can start looking into the issues. Not that the present government cannot do it, but we know the present government is as compromised as anything else.
Wow. Listeners, Star Radio UK. Anthony Adedeji, good morning to you. I hope you are doing well, and everyone in the US, we salute you. Amayo, hello to you. And Tosino, long time. I hope you are doing very well. Okay, now Yomi, so what are we looking at on Niger Voices this evening?
Well, again, it's going to have to focus back on security. Just last week we had Bishop Adeshina. Defend yourself is in the Bible, is under the United Nations Charter, is even inside the fraudulent 1999 military decree. We will be having a guest, should the network be very good, a woman perspective on the security and what we should be doing more. That is going to be what we're going to be discussing later on Niger Voices at exactly 1800 hours. Make sure you'll be part of that program on Star Radio UK. 6 p.m. local time here in UK, 6 p.m. local time back for those that are going to be watching us from Nigeria.
Thank you very, very much, Yomi, and we'll see you later on.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye. Well, listeners, it is Star Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London on a Wednesday edition of the morning show. Let me acknowledge Baba Tunde Omidoyin. Yes, yeah, thumbs up to you too. I hope you are doing very, very well. Thank you very much for joining us as well. It is Star Radio UK. We've got 22 minutes to bring the first part of the program to a close and take you to the House of Parliament for the Prime Minister's question time. There's lots happening here in the UK. I tell you. But let's quickly look at a couple of stories and then rush to that side. So in Ghana, as I did announce earlier on, or I did put across earlier on, Ghana government is beginning talks with the IMF today amid economic crisis. However, one of the what do we call them? The former Minister for Finance and Economic Planning has made a statement pertaining to the reason Ghana is going, or the reason the government has given for they are going for a bailout from the IMF. Now, a former finance minister, Sechekwe, has ridiculed the claim by government that global circumstances beyond its control necessitated the decision to reach out to the International Monetary Fund. The government says its reason for seeking the IMF bailout from the Bretton Woods institution is different and plausible from the circumstances that led the Mahama administration to seek a bailout. Oh, interesting. Now, there he said, I hear a lot of arguments that your crisis was domestic. COVID was the most severe. It was the beginning of a global financial crisis. And this is a contradiction because the global financial crisis started 2008 and lasted a decade. It means it lasted the Mills Mahama administration. He stated. Now, Mr. Chakwe stated that the global crisis affected countries such as South Africa, Nigeria, and some stalwarts in Africa, and they went into recession. We did a descent 3.6 of GDP, if you can remember, and we were told that we were inefficient. Then came COVID, and we experienced 0.4 growth with the same resources. Interesting. The best of the gas pipeline in Nigeria, which gave us Dumso gas supply and all that was it domestic? Nigeria is not a region in Ghana. The global financial crisis, which they admitted the consequences of it, which led to commodity price falls. If you read our MFP and the letter of intact, that which as a part of the reasons we gave to the fund. Now it goes over to say, if you downplay someone's crisis, you will not prepare for your own possible crisis, and that is exactly where we are, he opined. Now, he also chided Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta and the government for organizing a Kenke party to celebrate a successful Eurobond. Now, so when you see government, people in authority behaving that way, Eurobond, which is a lot, it's not your own money. It's not like we've gone to dig some pit and then we found some gold and went to sell it and we say, whoa guys, look at what we've got, and let's throw a party over it. Nothing of the sort. But this is a case where they want to get the Eurobonds, a floating of the Eurobond, and then they come to throw a Kenke party. There's a Kenke, a Wache party. He says that, well, we went back for the COVID loan, and because it was a rapid credit facility, there was virtually no conditionality. We took the SDI, and I can say for sure that 1 billion, how much did the KIA terminal cost? Even that money could have gone to the airport. And before me, I can see the Minister of Finance having his Wache, when they threw the Wache and Kenke party in 2019, March 22nd of March 2019, around 11 a.m. Now, every minister ends the IMF program from Rawlings, Dr. Bochwe, but he never did any Wache party. Now, what I know is done for the ministry for the ministry finance is, I called all the agencies at the end of the year. We have an end of year party. It is also not a party you acknowledge each performance, Mr. Tekwe disclosed. Meanwhile, the delegation from the IMF are expected to begin engagement with the government on Wednesday for the bailout negotiations. Yesterday, somebody sent me a family platform that I am on. They sent this is a joke that some video where a gentleman, it's not a gentleman, wearing some white and black trousers or something, and then having a sort of a briefcase with an umbrella or a cane, going around the community, going to a shop to say, well, standing at the shop and saying, hey, how much did you buy that for? You're not supposed to buy so much, and mocking what is going on with the IMF in Ghana. But well, it is all Star Radio UK. A lot more going to be coming your way from that, but stay tuned, don't you go away. Now, interestingly, in Africa, that's where miracles do happen, isn't it? The Sri Lankan Football Association is investigating the outcome of two matches that produced an unbelievable total of 187 goals. On Sunday, Kahula Rangers shattered Lumbebu United 95 goals to nil, as Konos Gulf FC trashed Kugima Lebanon 91 goals to 1. Now, both teams were in contention for promotion with equal points. Everything had to be decided on goal difference. Now, given the extent of their score, which was only 2 goals to nil and 7 to 1 at halftime, the two results could not be approved. I think the first half they said, okay, these are the goals, so that is cool. But then when they saw that no, there's a tendency that, well, both teams are going to the next stage, or going to the next premier whatever league that they find themselves in. Then they decided, okay, now let's allow the scores to go on. So an investigation was immediately opened by the president of the federation, Thomas Daddy Brima. We cannot let such mediocrity go unpunished. Those responsible will have to appear before an anti-corruption commission and will have to answer for their action. Last month, arranged results caused a stir in South Africa, where fourth level teams conceded dozens of goals. Suspension of 6 to 8 years had been pronounced against the leaders of the offending clubs. So what happens there? Interesting. 91 goals to 1. Jesus Christ. And the other one, 95 goals to nil. Wow. Were they sleeping? They were all sleeping. So it was only one team that was kicking the ball across. No attack, nothing. So from pole to pole, less than a minute is there. Boom. Okay, interesting. You know, we do it so much so that it's over the top. But well, it is already okay. Now let's look at some of the stories making the rounds in other parts of the world, a couple of them, and then we come to the UK, as you know what is happening there or here. Now, interestingly, suspects have been charged with the murder over the 4th of July attack. Yesterday I saw his image and I said he is a queer person. A man accused of opening fire on a 4th of July parade near Chicago has been charged with 7 counts of murder. Officials have said now Robert Crimo, 21, will be punished for the killing spree he has unleashed against our community. Lake County State Attorney Eric Reinhardt said the attack in Highland Park left 7 dead and more than 30 others injured. Mr. Reinhardt added that the dozens were charged. That dozen more charges will be filed before the investigation was over. They are just the first of many charges that will be filed against Mr. Crimo, he said to cheers and applause from the crowd gathered for the news conference on Tuesday. I want to emphasize that there will be more charges. The suspect is accused of firing 70 bullets from a high-powered rifle down to the crowd and disguising himself as a woman so he could escape alongside fleeing victims. Oh wow, I have a picture of him. He had a wig on and wearing a woman's attire, pumped some boobs or something there to create boobs for him. An 8-hour manhunt on Monday police arrested Mr. Krimo, and he was discovered with a second rifle similar to the one used in the attack. 3 other firearms were also found at his home. Now, police said the suspect had 2 prior contacts with law enforcement agency. Well, it is Star Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London, and it's now gone 12 minutes to the top of the hour. We take a quick break, we come back, and we continue with the show. Stay tuned.
Getting onto the property ladder has never been easy until now. Join us this and every Thursday from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. live on the Property Hour show on Star Radio UK, where we talk to mortgage brokers, property developers, estate agents, landlord, tenant, property consultants on how to invest or get into the property business and make money. You can't afford to miss this. The Property Hour show is your best source into the property industry.
Hi everyone, it's your girl BB Clement, the author of How to Go from Employee to Entrepreneur and the host of your weekly business show, BB Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Star Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Welcome back to the program. It is Star Radio UK, the final segment of the morning show. Before we take you to the House of Parliament for the Prime Minister's question time, and this pertains to what is happening here in the UK. What is happening here in the UK? As I said, exactly in the next few minutes, I'll be taking you to the Houses of Parliament for the Prime Minister's question time. Well, Zara Alina died from head injuries, coroner hears. This lady who was walking just about 10 minutes walk to her home, decided not to get a lift or get a cab to get home, but ended up losing her life on her way, being attacked and losing her life. But the story says a woman who was killed as she returned home from a night out died from head and neck injuries, a coroner has said. Zara Lena, 35, was walking in Cranbrook Road, Ilford, 10 minutes from her home when she was attacked in the early hours of the 26th of June. Now, Jordan McSweeney, 29, from Church Elm Lane, Dagenham, East London, has been charged with her murder. Now, he's also charged with attempted penetration without consent and robbery. So, I think he wanted to rape her and then ended up strangling her. Now, Coroner Nadia Perswat heard that Miss Alina had been admitted to the Royal London Hospital shortly before 04:45 hours with multiple injuries. Her condition then worsened and she was pronounced dead a short time later, East London Coroner's Court has told. Now, Miss Perswat adjourned the inquest until the conclusion of any criminal proceedings. Mr. McSweeney is next due to appear at the Old Bailey on the 30th of September, and that is from what is happening here in the UK. Now, Boris Johnson is fighting on, but is hit by a new wave of resignation this morning as well. Boris Johnson is battling to stay in office amid a growing wave of resignations from his government in protest at his leadership. Now, new Chancellor Nadim Zahawi has urged unity after his predecessor, the Health Secretary, and several junior ministers walked out. But the Prime Minister has been hit by 6 further resignations, taking the total to 16 in the past day. It comes as he prepares for the Prime Minister's question time later and a grilling by senior MPs. Now, Mr. Johnson's premiership has been plunged into crisis following the dramatic resignations of Chancellor Rishi Sunak and Health Secretary Sajid Javid. They quit within minutes of each other on Tuesday following a row over Mr. Johnson's decision to appoint Chris Pincher, Deputy Chief Whip, earlier this year. Their departures triggered a wave of resignation from more junior roles that has continued on Wednesday. In 6 further departures ahead of Prime Minister's question time, Education Minister Will Queen's and Robin Walker, Justice Minister Victoria Atkins, and Treasury Minister John Glenn, and Ministerial Aides Laura Trott and Felicity Buchan have all walked out. Now, Mr. Johnson has admitted it was a bad mistake to appoint Mr. Pincher despite being aware of misconduct allegations against him. It followed days of changing responses from number 10 over what exactly the Prime Minister knew about Mr. Pincher's past conduct when he gave him the job. Now, Mr. Queens, who was sent out to defend the Prime Minister in media interviews 2 days ago, said Downing Street had given him inaccurate information. I remember him coming on air, various platforms, defending the Prime Minister, saying the Prime Minister didn't know as far as they were concerned, blah, 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 that went on. However, we now find out that everything that was told him was a lie, that he had to go and defend. But this is a case where he decided that, look, it was a lie, and therefore I don't want to be part of that particular thing, and therefore has resigned. But my worry here has been the asking those who took the first step, that is Rishi Sunak, Sajid Javid, and then followed by Rishi Sunak. Now, my worry here is that now are they going to see them as traitors? Why did Caucasian secretaries not actually walk out? But then somebody will say, now these are Asians origin, yes, by origin, who decided to walk. Is it that we are more principled than other tribes or other people or other color? So would you say that they are some would call them backstabbers? I was was it last night or early this morning when we were watching the news, and I was telling the missus that I think that this is Brutus, that's Julius Caesar's murder, and I was looking at Brutus and who are the others who were perpetrated in that. So is that what has happened? And do you think should another person come to power, he will look at them as trustworthy people to bring them back on? We know that Rishi Sunak has said that that might be his last cabinet position that he might ever have. Now, they are a rich bunch, and therefore they can get on with whatever they want to do and get on with their lives. But what about the others? Well. It is Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Don't go away. Now, Mrs. Ahawi, who becomes the 4th Chancellor in 3 years, my apologies, was appointed alongside the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff, Steve Barclay, who became Health Secretary. And number 10 source said the new Chancellor was more dynamic and more aligned with Mr. Johnson, and described the new Health Secretary as a massive upgrade. Oh my goodness. The catch my drift? Yeah, it's a massive upgrade from what we're seeing with Sajid Javid. Now, Mr. Javid had warned the leadership was not acting in national interest, while Mr. Sunak said the public expected government to be conducted properly, competently, and seriously. Now, Mr. Sunak also referenced tensions over the economy in his resignation letter, telling the Prime Minister the approaches had become fundamentally too different. So isn't that Rishi Sunak was trying to push for some bailouts or stuff like that, and the Prime Minister was putting the spanner in his web? Or was he trying to say, no, we don't have to borrow too much money to be given out, and that and then Boris was saying, no, we need to help the people? So what exactly has taken place? The departures triggered a wave of resignation, including Solicitor General Alex Chalk, 5 ministerial aides, and 2 trade envoys, and Bim Afolami as vice chair of the Tory party. Now, Ashfield MP Lee Anderson, a previously loyal supporter of Mr. Johnson, also withdrew his support, saying in a Facebook post, he could not look myself in the mirror. I could not look myself in the mirror and accept the Prime Minister's handling of Chris Pincher's appointment. So the question is, has Chris Pincher's case being the last straw that broke the camel's back? Well, if party bosses change the 1-year rule on leadership challenges, rebel Tory MPs could try again to oust him later this summer or in the autumn. Now, if Mr. Johnson lost a vote of no confidence in Parliament, he will have to resign or call an election. Otherwise, he will have to resign himself, possibly in the face of cabinet pressure like Margaret Thatcher or other fresh wave of ministerial resignations that is taking place at the moment. Now, what do you think the Prime Minister should do? The pressure on the Prime Minister was also elevated last month by the loss of 2 by-elections, Tiverton and Huntington and Wakefield, and the resignation of Conservative Party Chairman Oliver Dowden. Now, Conservative MPs Andrew Regin said that the Prime Minister should resign, and if he does not do so, the party will have to force him out. The 1922 committee will deal with the turbulent Prime Minister. It's what it was created for, he said. Now, Bob Blackman, a member of the 1922 Executive Committee, said elections to replace the executive team, an event rebel Tories want to use to force a leadership role change, will take place before Parliament's summer recess 2 weeks' time. Now, meanwhile, Labour's leader Sir Keir Starmer said he will he would welcome a snap election, and the country needed a change of government. But the question is, during this time, at this time where there is so much pressure when it comes to the finances of the country, and I mean so much, do you think we need a change of government? Well, I was thinking that Rishi Sunak should have been there, keeping his eye on the ball, making sure that things are taken along the way they're supposed to be, rather than he leaving. And then with the NHS that got a backlog more than the whole world trying to come to the UK to come and get some work done by the NHS. Now, what do you think about all that? Well. It is Starr Radio UK. This is why I bring the program to a close. I'm taking you straight to the Houses of Parliament for the Prime Minister's question time. But stay tuned whilst I try to line them up for you.
Of backbenchers, but will that happen today? It really is a very fast moving set of events. But I think the principle that we discussed on the news, on the 10 o'clock news last night, that this was a Prime Minister in freefall, out of control, and the question is now moving from can he survive to how long he survives. You are seeing that now playing out in real time as his government ministers and party members openly desert and defy him.
And we are seeing that all the benches filling up, Beth. Certainly no empty benches behind the Prime Minister. Briefly, John Stevenson, Conservative MP, back to you for a final thought before the Prime Minister takes to his feet. Simon Fell, fellow Cumbrian MP, is one of the ones who has just tweeted that enough is enough. I wonder what you think, the impact is on MPs. It is one thing, isn't it, losing faith in your leader, but when you see your colleagues also losing faith, it speeds up that ball rolling down the hill, doesn't it?
Undoubtedly, and somebody like Simon Fell is a very sensible individual, moderate member of Parliament. When people like him are sort of saying this is the end of the road, I think you've got to believe that it actually is. I think the Conservative Party now, we want to see the Prime Minister. I would like to see him resign later today, and then we have to move on. We still have 2.5 years of this Parliament to run. We still have plenty that we can do. And I think what we need to do is create a certainty, a stable government, get behind a new leader and take the country forward. Because there's some challenges for the country, and which we all are aware of, but we need stable, strong, competent government. And that's what I think the Conservative MPs now want to see happen.
The Prime Minister has just walked into the House of Commons. Prime Minister's questions is due to start imminently. Beth, if the Prime Minister were to decide to go today, would he announce it before Prime Minister's questions?
I wouldn't expect that, Jane, and I actually, all the soundings that I have had from those around him, from his allies, is that the Prime Minister has no intention of resigning, that he would want to carry on. I guess there will be a calculation within his inner team about, at some point, whether he can carry on. This is the piece of the jigsaw that really is unknown at the moment, which is what is the process in which he might
Let's go to it. The
resign.
Prime Minister's about to take to his feet. Let's listen in.
Ben Everett. One, please, sir. Prime Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today is a big day as we implement the biggest tax cut. As we implement the biggest tax cut for a decade, increasing national insurance thresholds to make tax lower and the tax burden easier. These changes will benefit 30 million people across the UK. And I'm pleased to say that two of those people are seated here in the public gallery today. Mandy Banfield and Alan Calzari, a typical worker, will now save £330 per year, with 70% of employees better off as a result. That is real money for real people. Mr. Speaker, I'm sure the House will also join me in wishing the best of luck to England and Northern Ireland, who are competing in the UEFA Women's Euro 2022 tournament, which starts today, and I'm sure they will both make the nation proud. This morning, Mr. Speaker, I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I expect I shall have further such meetings later today. Ben Everett. Thank you, sir. Last week we launched a new approach to combating knife crime in Milton Keynes, which means increased use of stop and search. It means tougher charging and custody, tougher sentencing, faster youth diversion, and more work with parents and communities. Would the Prime Minister agree with me that if you carry a knife in Milton Keynes, you should expect to end up behind bars?
Yes, I thank my honourable friend for what he's doing to campaign for tougher sentences in Milton. He's in a campaign against knife crime, and as a result of what the Conservatives have done, adults who are convicted of certain offences involving a knife, including threatening with a knife or a second offence of possession, face a minimum sentence of 6 months imprisonment, Mr. Speaker. And guess who voted against tougher sentences for knife crime?
We know. We now come to the Leader of the Opposition, Keir Starmer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today is the start of the Women's Euros, and I know the whole House will wish the Lionesses the very best of luck in bringing football home. Mr. Speaker, it's also... Mr. Speaker, it's also been 40 years since the death of Terence Higgins. Terence worked at Hansard by day and Heaven by night before he sadly died of AIDS. The Labour Party and the Terence Higgins Trust are committed to ending new cases of HIV by 2030. Together we can. Mr. Speaker, last week a government minister was accused of sexually assaulting a young man. I want to quote the victim's account. He says, "He grabbed my arse and then he slowly moved his hand down in front of my groin. I froze." I accept that's not easy listening, but it's a reminder to all those propping up this Prime Minister just how serious the situation is. He knew the accused minister had previously committed predatory behaviour, but he promoted him to a position of power anyway. Why?
Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, that individual, the member for Tamworth, no longer has the Conservative whip. He no longer has a job. He is no longer, as soon as I was made aware of the allegation that he has just read out, Mr. Speaker, and the complaint that was made, he lost his status as a Conservative MP, and he is now the subject, Mr. Speaker, of an independent investigation to the complaints and grievances panel. And that is entirely right. And I want to say to him, Mr. Speaker, I want to say to him that I abhor bullying and abuse of power anywhere in Parliament, in this party or in any other party.
Keir Starmer. None of that explains why he promoted him in the first place. And we've heard it all before. We know who he really is. Before he was found out, he's reported to have said he's handsy. That's the problem. Pincher by name, pincher by nature. Now, has the Prime Minister ever said words to that effect? And I'm not asking for bluster and half-truths. We've all had enough of that. Yes or no?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not going to trivialise what happened. Yes, Mr. Speaker. Yes, Mr. Speaker. And I'm not, because the very serious complaints have been raised against the member for Tamworth, and they're now being investigated, Mr. Speaker. It is true. It is true that a complaint was raised when he was in the Foreign Office, and the matter was resolved. It's absolutely true. It's absolutely true, Mr. Speaker, that it was raised with me. I greatly regret that he continued in office, and I've said that. I have said that before, Mr. Speaker. I have said that before, Mr. Speaker. But it is now the subject of an independent investigation, and that is the right thing, Mr. Speaker. And frankly, I think the people of this country would like also to hear. They would like also to hear about other jobs that are held by people in this country, not least the 500,000 people we got off welfare into work in the last 6 months alone, Mr. Speaker. Those are things that are making differences to the lives of people up and down the country, and I'm proud of it.
Keir Starmer.
No one's cheering that.
No denial. And he says the matter was resolved when he means it was upheld.
Exactly.
And they're all sitting there as if this is normal behaviour.
Exactly.
When that young man reported his attack to a government whip, she asked him if he was gay. When he said that he was, she replied, "That doesn't make it straightforward." That comment will sicken anyone who's experienced sexual assault and then be made to feel like they somehow asked for it, or who worry that prejudice means their complaint won't be taken seriously. Will he apologise for those disgraceful comments on behalf of his government?
Mr. Speaker, I've already said that I regret very much that the member for Tamworth continued to hold office after the complaint was made against him in the Foreign Office, and it was resolved in the Foreign Office. His apology was accepted, but clearly that was not enough. And in hindsight, Mr. Speaker, I should have realised that he would not change. However, when it came to the Friday of last week, and when I was given the information that he's read out about the complaint that was made against the honourable member, I acted immediately, Mr. Speaker, and I took the whip away from him. And we will not tolerate that kind of behaviour in this or any other party, Mr. Speaker. And what we also want to do is to help people up and down the country with the things that also matter to them, like cutting their taxes, Mr. Speaker, by £330 this year, which is what we're doing.
Keir Starmer.
Doesn't that just sum him up? Awful behaviour, unacceptable in any walk of life. It's there for all to see, but he ignores it. It was the same when his ally was on the take from the lobbyists. It was the same when his Home Secretary was bullying staff. It was the same when taxpayers' money was being abused. And it was the same when he and his mates parted their way through lockdown. Anyone quitting now, after defending all that, hasn't got a shred of integrity. Mr. Speaker, isn't this the first recorded case of the sinking ships fleeing the rat?
Mr. Speaker, look, he talks about. He should hear what his lot say about him, Mr. Speaker. He talks about integrity. He wanted to install the member for Islington North into number 10, Mr. Speaker. That's what he wanted to do. Imagine what our country and what the world will be like now. He talks about integrity. He voted 48 times to overturn the will of the British people and take us back into the European Union. And by the way, listening to his muddled speech the other day, that is exactly what he would do again. Mr. Speaker, he talks about integrity, but Mr. Speaker, he has voted time and time again against sanctions on criminals that would put them behind bars. This is the government that is tough on... I'm sorry, he talks about integrity. He is himself facing a criminal investigation, Mr. Speaker, which he asked me to resign.
Starmer!
What a pathetic spectacle. The dying act of his political career is to parrot that nonsense. And as for those who are left, only in office because no one else is prepared to debase themselves any longer, the charge of the lightweight brigade. Have some self-respect. Mr. Speaker, for a week, he's had them defending his decision to promote a sexual predator. Every day, the lines he's forced them to take have been untrue. First, that he was unaware of any allegation. Untrue. Then, he was unaware of any specific allegation. Untrue. Then he was unaware of any serious specific allegation. And now he wants them to go out and say that he simply forgot that his whip was a sexual predator. Anyone with anything about them would be long gone from his front bench. In the middle of a crisis, doesn't the country deserve better than a Z-list cast of nodding dogs?
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's exactly when times are tough and when the country faces pressures on the economy and pressures on their budgets, Mr. Speaker, and when we have the biggest war in Europe for 80 years, Mr. Speaker, that is exactly the moment that you'd expect a government to continue with its work, not to walk away, Mr. Speaker, and to get on with our job and to focus on the things that matter to the people of this country. And so we're not only cutting taxes today, Mr. Speaker, we're putting £1,200 into every one of the 8 million most vulnerable households in the country, Mr. Speaker, thanks to the strength of our economy and thanks to the decisions that we took, Mr. Speaker, which he opposed at the time.
Here's Starmer.
The only thing he's delivering is chaos. I started this session with a quote from the young victim in all this, how he froze when he was attacked. When I was prosecuting rapists, I heard that from victims all the time. Victims said they froze because it's not about sex, it's about power. And the power the disgraced government minister had was handed to him by that Prime Minister. And he's only in power because he's been propped up for months by a corrupted party defending the indefensible. So it's no longer a case about swapping the person at the top. Isn't it clear? The only way the country can get the fresh start it deserves is by getting rid of the lot of them.
Mr. Speaker, the difference between this...
Shh. We've got to get through Prime Minister's questions. Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the difference between this government and that opposition is we have a plan and they do not. And we're getting on with it. They want to focus on this type of issue, Mr. Speaker. We're going to get on with our jobs. We're going to control prices, Mr. Speaker, by not giving in to the union barons. They're paid by the union barons, and they're proud of it. We were the first European country to arm the Ukrainians, Mr. Speaker. I'm proud of that. And those guys, Mr. Speaker, the party opposite, not only do they want to put Mr. Corbyn into number 10, the member for Islington North, but 8 of them, including the shadow Foreign Secretary, the shadow Deputy Leader, and 6 others, voted to get rid of our independent nuclear deterrent, Mr. Speaker. Today we are cutting taxes, we're helping 500,000 people into work, and thanks to the strength of our economy, we're helping people up and down the country, and we are going to continue to deliver on the mandate I was given.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. On Monday night, the Northern Ireland Legacy Bill reached its 3rd reading, and so with it the beginning of the end of the journey, a long journey to make sure the service and sacrifice of those who served in Iraq, Afghanistan and now Northern Ireland is not rewritten by those who seek only to line their own pockets. But would the Prime Minister agree with me that never again can we allow such a gulf to open up between this place and those who serve? Never again must they be made to feel like we are not on their side. And will he redouble his commitment to make sure this is the best country in the world to serve in the military and be a veteran all their family.
Thanks, my honourable friend, very much. I thank you for all the work that he's done for veterans and continues to do. This bill will give veterans the certainty they deserve, and we're fulfilling the manifesto pledge to end the cycle of investigations, but also at the same time making sure that families can get the answers they need about what happened to their loved ones.
We now come to the Leader of the SNP, Ian Blackford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I give every best wish to the England and Northern Ireland ladies football team as they approach the Euro Championships. There's nothing better than seeing your teams in these finals. Can we also commemorate the passing 40 years ago of Terence Higgins and all those that have died from AIDS and Sen? And I'm sure, Mr. Speaker, the whole House will want to join with me in passing condolences to the family and friends of the Scottish football goalkeeping legend, Andy Gorham, who sadly passed far too early last weekend. He will long live in the memory of the best goalkeeper that many of us have seen. Mr. Speaker, it's easy to forget that only 10 days ago the Prime Minister was dreaming of a third term. Mr. Speaker, you know, it's often said that a week is a long time in politics, but it turns out that 10 days is truly a lifetime. Because, let's face it, it's a minor miracle that the Prime Minister has even made it through to Prime Minister's questions, and he really ought to see the faces behind him, because, Prime Minister, it really is over. The Prime Minister is desperately clinging on to his own fantasy, but the public can't afford to put up with this farce of a government a minute longer. Today, we should be talking about the Tory cost of living crisis, soaring inflation and the growing costs of Brexit. But instead, it's always about him. How many more ministers need to quit before he finally picks up his pen and writes his own resignation letter? Perhaps that's what he's doing now.
Actually, Mr. Speaker, I was just jotting down some notes on his question, which I thought was excellent when he was talking about the economy, because that is the issue that the country faces, and that is where this government is introducing, I think, the most important solution: helping families up and down the country with £1,200 going into their bank accounts right now, cutting taxes for 30 million people, £330 tax cut, and helping 500,000 people into work through the Way to Work scheme. That is a fantastic thing to be getting on and doing. That is the priority of this government, and that's what I'm going to focus on. I'm glad he likes it.
Ian Blackford.
My goodness, nothing to see. We should all move on if we live in the world of the Prime Minister. You know, a few weeks ago I compared the Prime Minister to Monty Python's Black Knight. Actually, turns out I was wrong. He's actually the dead parrot. Whether he knows it or not, he's now an ex-Prime Minister. But he will leave behind two deeply damaging legacies. I hope the dishonesty of his leadership follows him out of the Downing Street door. But the other legacy is that of Brexit. And that will stay, because I'm sad to say that the Labour Party now fully supports Brexit. Mr. Speaker, Scotland wants a different future, not just a different Prime Minister. So if the Prime Minister won't resign, will he call a general election and allow Scotland the choice of an independent future, free from the control of Westminster?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I noticed that his remark that the Labour Party had given up on returning to the European Union was not greeted with rapture by the benches opposite, and that's because it's not true. They want to go back in just as he does. I think that is a terrible mistake. It would be anti-democratic, Mr. Speaker. And as for the referendum that he wants, well, we had one of them, as I've told him before, in 2014.
Come on.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the Prime Minister think there are any circumstances in which he should resign?
I think, Mr. Speaker, clearly, if there were circumstances in which I felt it was impossible for the government to go on and discharge the mandate that we've been given, or if I felt, for instance, that we were being frustrated in our desire to support the Ukrainian people, or over some major point, then I would. But frankly, Mr. Speaker, the job of a Prime Minister in difficult circumstances when he's been handed a colossal mandate is to keep going, and that's what I'm going to do.
There's Savile Roberts.
Well,
There you have it, Mr. Speaker. Once again, the Prime Minister, he puts political survival before public duty. Yeah. But people can see, even if he goes, it's not an if, it's a when, isn't it? Yeah. The same Westminster arrogance will continue to dictate our futures in Wales. Yeah. Does he want a medal for being the best recruiting sergeant for independence we could wish for?
Actually, Mr. Speaker, everywhere I look around the United Kingdom, I had a great talk with Mark Drakeford the other day, as well as talking to Nicola Sturgeon. I see the bonds of our union being strengthened the whole time, and I'm confident that they will continue to do so.
Link Drummond. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The government's town centre and levelling up funds have been very successful around the country, but there are a few town centres, like Waterlooville in Mearn Valley, that are in desperate straits and haven't managed to get any funding, get a scheme into the present round of funding. Can my honourable friend assure me that future funds will be available to help declining high streets become fit for the 21st century and survive the post-pandemic?
I thank my honourable friend, and she's a great champion for Mearn Valley, and I will make sure that she gets a meeting with the Minister for Levelling Up at the earliest opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The public clearly thinks that this government has lost the plot over the cost of living crisis. The Prime Minister may be aware that the average salary for a nurse is £36,000. For a primary teacher, it is £38,000. They, and indeed working people everywhere, are struggling to pay their rents and their mortgages. Given they can barely afford a £150,000 mortgage on a new home, can he tell this House how he could afford a £150,000 treehouse?
What I can tell him, Mr. Speaker, is that up and down the country, rather than talking about fantasy infrastructure, I can talk about real infrastructure. We are helping to unite and level up the people of this country with £650 billion of investment, helping people, helping to lift the aspirations and opportunities of people up and down the country. And thanks to the strength of our economy, we're helping exactly the people he describes, with £1,200 going into their bank accounts to help them with the cost of living pressures.
Under the House, Peter Bottomley. The Prime Minister knows that while he's Prime Minister, I want him to do all the good he can. While he's Prime Minister's Green and Present Land, can I refer him to EDM 1082 about the Goring Gap, the Chatsmore Farm, or to the Department of Levelling Up, the land above Goring Station, the farm in Worthing, which was fully protected and will be fully protected when another inspector says that Worthing Council protecting it will happen. Can I ask him to tell the government to withdraw their objection to Worthing Council's appeal against the absurd decision by a planning inspector to allow 482 homes to go on this green lung between Goring and Ferry?
I thank the Right Honourable John very much, and he campaigns on this issue for some time. I will make sure that he gets a meeting with the relevant minister to discuss the development in Goring by sea.
Ian Lavery. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the 21st of January, the government committed £100 million from the Automotive Transformation Fund to British Wool to a gigafactory in my constituency, Calais, Wansbeck. And as of today, Prime Minister, not a penny, not a single halfpenny is being received by the company. And it jeopardises up to 8,000 much-needed jobs. The tensions between the Prime Minister and the former Chancellor have sadly now been much exposed. And I'm telling you, Prime Minister, the betrayal of my constituents cannot be another broken promise of this government. Prime Minister, give him a nudge. Please instruct your new bestie to make sure that the cheque is in the post this afternoon, because who knows who'll be in that seat this time this afternoon. Never mind next week.
I congratulate the honourable gentleman on the passion with which he advocates investment in British folk? And I totally share his enthusiasm. And actually, I want to thank my honourable member for Blythe Valley as well, who is a heroic campaigner on this issue. I can tell him that the letter was sent last night, Mr. Speaker, an in-principle offer of support for this project through. How about that? Hang on in there, Mr. Speaker. That's what I'm going to do.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The world is facing a global food crisis in which the poorest nations face catastrophic consequences. Will the Prime Minister take all possible action to negotiate and facilitate access to the grain stores stranded in Ukraine? We have a limited opportunity to avert famine in developing nations, and the UK must play its full part using all the resources at our disposal.
My right honourable friend is completely right, and there are 25 million tonnes of wheat that are basically being held hostage by Putin. That's equivalent to the annual consumption of many of the least developed countries, and we're helping to lift that blockade, not just by negotiation, but also by supplying demining equipment, insurance for the commercial ships that might be involved, and also 10 million to help improve the railway infrastructure that would be necessary to get the grain out by rail.
Mark Andrew.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Prime Minister said that he is fed up of people saying things on his behalf. It's not just him that's fed up, so are the British people and his ministers who are resigning. They're sick of time and time again being sent out by him to say things that aren't true. Is the real problem him or them for believing him in the first place?
Mr. Speaker, I thank him very much, and look, I want to be clear. What I want to say is, I say it again. I regret the way the appointment happened, and I was clear with the House about what I knew at the time. But I want to stress that I take this matter extremely seriously. I'm very sorry for the impact it's had on the victims. But the individual in question, the member for Tamworth, is now subject to an independent complaints and grievance procedure. As soon as that complaint was made, I should say, Mr. Speaker, the whip was taken away.
Can I just say, we don't know that is the case. It is confidential, and I think we've got to stop referring to something that we don't know there. And I want to put the House on notice that we don't mention it. Teresa Villiers.
Just over a fortnight ago, 2 horrific fatal stabbings took place in a quiet street in East Barnet. With the Metropolitan Police now in special measures for the first time in its history, will the Prime Minister urge the Mayor of London to start living up to his responsibilities as Commissioner? The Mayor needs to get a grip on crime, he needs to give Barnet its fair share of new officers, and he needs to abandon his plans to sell Barnet police stations.
Well, I do notice, Mr. Speaker, that crime has spiked since the previous Mayor of London, and it is the Labour Party that voted against stop and search, Mr. Speaker, that voted against increased funding for the police. And I think, as for the Labour Mayor, he'd do better to get out of California and take control of crime in his city.
And this will alter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. According to the NHS Confederation, not a single one of the so-called 40 new hospitals the Prime Minister promised at the last election will be built by 2024. 2 of those new hospitals are in my constituency. Hammersmith opened in 1902 and Charing Cross opened in 1818. They're not new hospitals, and there's no building going on. Like all his promises, they exist only in his warped imagination, as this is likely to be his last Prime Minister's questions. Will he finally tell us the truth?
Well, actually, Mr. Speaker, if he looks at what we promised and what we delivered, we said we'd get 20,000 police out on the streets. We've actually got 13,500 more already. We said we'd do 50,000 more nurses. We're already on track. And he's quite wrong about the pledge on hospitals. We're going to deliver them by 2030, Mr. Speaker. That was always clear. And the only reason we can do that is because we're putting the funding into our NHS, which he and his party opposed.
Gary Sambrell. Mr. Speaker,
Yesterday, in an attempt to boost morale in the tea room, the Prime Minister said at a table, but there were 7 people, MPs in the Carlton Club last week, and one of them should have tried to intervene to stop Chris from drinking so much. As if that wasn't insulting enough to the people who did try and intervene that night, and then also to the victims that drink was the problem. Isn't it the example, Mr. Speaker, but as the Prime Minister constantly tries to deflect from the issue, always tries to blame other people for mistakes, and that at least nothing left for him to do other than to take responsibility and resign.
Order! Can I just say, you ought to be embarrassed by clapping. This is not a debate. Mr. Esterson, it's not debating society. This is...
No, we'll leave it.
This is Prime Minister's questions. I want to get through the questions as other people want to catch my eye, and the way to do it is not by clapping. Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, there's a very simple reason why they want me out, and that is because they know, Mr. Speaker, that otherwise we are going to get on and deliver our mandate and win another general election, and that is the reality, Mr. Speaker.
Neera Wilson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister once wrote, "It is a wonderful and necessary fact of political biology that we never know when our time is up. Long after it is obvious to everyone that we are goners, we continue to believe our duty is to hang on to the perks and privileges of our posts. In reality, we are just terrified of the come down." So for the sake of this great country, will the Prime Minister heed the advice of his former self, get over his terror and do the decent thing?
Mr. Speaker, with great respect, I refer the honourable lady to the answer I have just given. When things are tough, of course people turn their fire on the leader of the country, but it is my job to get on and deliver our manifesto, which we are, and to deliver on the mandate on which I was elected, and to get this country through tough times, just as we got it through COVID. And that is what I'm going to do.
Fiona Bruce.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Around 1,000, I apologise, around 1,000 delegates from 100 countries are at the Freedom of Religion or Belief International Ministerial Conference over at the QE2 Centre today. There is still time for honourable members to visit. But will the Prime Minister agree with me that this significant conference will count for nothing unless it results in concerted global action to promote and protect freedom of religion or belief around the world?
I thank her very much. And freedom of religion and belief is integral to people's identity and their sense of themselves and their own personal freedom and security. And I thank her for the work she's doing as my own envoy on that subject, and also for the wonderful conference that she has organised. It was great to talk to her about it yesterday.
Mohammed Jasser.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Will the Prime Minister join me in expressing my deepest condolences to those injured and affected by the explosion at a block of flats at Redwood Grove in Bedford on Monday, which has sadly led to the death of one resident, with others yet to be accounted for. This is a timely reminder of the dangerous work undertaken by the fire service. So will the Prime Minister join me in praising the emergency services who were at the scene, and also reconsider his 2% pay offer when firefighters have endured a real terms pay cuts of 12% over the last decade?
I thank him very much, and and I share very much his support for the firefighters of our country. They do an incredible job, and overall it's a testament to their work that deaths from fire over a long period have on average been decreasing, thanks to the work that they put in. We will do our best we will look at the public sector pay review body offer and do our best to fund them as much as we can, but everybody knows the inflationary pressures that this country is now under. We don't want to have pay increases that are simply swallowed by price increases.
David Johnson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
The North Morton in my constituency was dubbed Britain's kindest village because this 160, wait for it, because this 160 home village committed to take 50 Ukrainian refugees. And it has them all with them now. In the gallery today, there is a group of those hosts and some of the Ukrainians that they are hosting, including 2 young people who hope to go into Ukrainian politics in the future. Will my right honourable friend join me in welcoming them to this place and in thanking North Morton for their efforts?
I thank him very much for what he's doing to host young Ukrainians. Thank everybody actually in this House who's looking after Ukrainians. I think a lot of people are doing that. And can I say, I believe it's the wish of this entire House that those young people should grow up to live in a free, independent, democratic and sovereign Ukraine.
Peter Dowd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Given that the Prime Minister doesn't like walkouts and strikes, what legislation will he be introducing to stop further walkouts and strikes amongst his cabinet colleagues and junior ministers?
Mr. Speaker, I think that the whole House will have observed the brilliant performance on the radio this morning by the new Chancellor of the Exchequer. And that's no disrespect to the former Chancellor of the Exchequer, but what I think it shows, Mr. Speaker, is that in common with many sectors of the UK economy, there is a ready supply of skilled labour in the upper reaches of the Conservative Party.
David Davis. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to draw the Prime Minister's attention to the words he used in response to my right honourable friend, the member for Worthing, when he asked the question earlier. 6 months ago, I called on the Prime Minister to resign because even then it was clear that his approach to leadership and integrity was already creating a pipeline of problems that will paralyse proper government. Today, I ask him to do the honourable thing, to put the interests of the nation before his own interests, and before, in his own words, it does become impossible for government to do its job.
Prime Minister.
I thank him very much for the point that he's made again. I just couldn't disagree with him more. Look at what the government is doing today. Cutting taxes for 30 million people. We've just completed a programme to get 500,000 people off welfare into work, Mr. Speaker. Thanks to the strength of our economy, thanks to the position that we're now in, which was because of decisions that we took that they opposed, and it's to never forget. We are able to give £1,200 to 8 million of the poorest and most vulnerable families in this country. That is the right thing to do. We're getting on with it, and we will continue with our active and energetic programme for the benefit of this country, uniting and levelling up and unleashing the prosperity of the entire nation.
Final question, Clive Betts.
The Local Government Association has told us that over 400 families who've come to this country from Ukraine under the family scheme have subsequently presented themselves as homeless to local authorities. Because the local authorities haven't got enough accommodation, those people are going to end up in temporary accommodation. There's a simple answer. Local authorities could be allowed to contact the many thousands of people who volunteered to provide homes under the Homes for Ukraine scheme. The problem is the government doesn't allow families to transfer from the family scheme to the home scheme. When will the Prime Minister act to ensure people who've come thousands of miles to this country aren't placed in temporary accommodation, but we take on the generosity of those families who are willing to offer them a home?
I thank him very much for the very valuable point that he's raised, and we will make sure that families are able to cross over from one scheme to another, and to simplify and speed up the process. But I don't think that should take away, Mr. Speaker, from the generosity of this country in welcoming Ukrainians. 135,000 visas have so far been issued through our uncapped scheme, both the family scheme and the Homes for Ukraine scheme. It's changing the lives of those Ukrainians, and I think we should all be proud of what we are doing.
We now come to the personal statement. I call Sajid Javid.
Mr. Speaker, I'm grateful for your permission to make this statement. Yesterday, we began our day together. You, I, my right honourable friend, the Prime Minister, and members from right across this House when we broke bread together at the Parliamentary Prayer Breakfast. And we listened, all of us, to the words of Reverend Les Isaac, who spoke about the fact that responsibility that comes with leadership, the responsibility to serve the interests of others above your own, and to seek common ground of your party, your community, and above all, your country. Now, colleagues will be forgiven for my sense of déjà vu. Despite what it might seem, I am not one of life's quitters. I didn't quit when I was told that boys like me don't do maths. I didn't quit when old school bankers said I didn't have the right school ties. And I didn't quit when people in my community said that I should not marry the love of my life. I care deeply about public service and giving back to this country that has given me so much. That is why, when I got the call from my right honourable friend, the Prime Minister, just over a year ago, I didn't hesitate to serve again. It was a critical time for our country. Tough decisions needed to be made about when we were going to come out of lockdown, about supporting the National Health Service and the care sector under unprecedented strain. It has been an absolute privilege of my life to have been trusted with these responsibilities, and I can only hope that my best has been good enough. It has undoubtedly also been one of the toughest roles that I've had so far. The gravity of Home Office decisions, the scale of Treasury decisions, but nothing matters more than the health of your people, of the British people, especially and in the wake of a pandemic. Caring for people's health and well-being is truly a noble vocation. And so I would like to take this opportunity to pay tribute to all of those across the country working in health and care sectors, as well as those that I worked so closely with in my old department, DHSC, and in the NHS. There is so much that I planned for the long-term reform of our health and care systems, and it is a wrench to leave that important work behind. Now, when I last gave a personal statement from this seat, I spoke about the importance of institutions and conventions. Today, it is about the importance of integrity. And don't worry, there's not going to be a series of these. Institutions and integrity are both central pillars that underpin our great democracy. It doesn't matter what your political perspective is in this House. I believe that we are all motivated by the national interest, and that the public expects us all of us, to maintain honesty and to maintain integrity in whatever we do. This is not an abstract matter. We've seen in great democracies what happens when divisions are entrenched and not bridged. We cannot allow that to happen here. We must bring the country together as one nation. Effective governance inevitably requires loyalty and collective responsibility. Of course it does. And I'm instinctively a team player. And I have completely focused